Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black promised history, and it delivered, but not the kind anyone expected. The scoreline was almost an afterthought, buried beneath whispers of controversy. Captains trading shots, and fans left wondering if the entire event had slipped into chaos. Something inside the rule book cracked open, and the fallout is still burning. What really happened at Bethpage? Let's unravel the mess.
I was in here a few minutes ago saying that he disagreed with the injury rule that impacted Victor and Harris and said that it should be changed by the next Ryder Cup. I wanted to get your thoughts, not on how it impacted today, but just on the rule in general.
I think it's been in place since 1971. The US have used it before. I think it's happened in 1991 with Steve Pate.
The 2025 Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black was supposed to be a monument to American redemption. Home soil raucous crowds, legendary moments, and national pride colliding under blinding pressure. Keegan Bradley leading the US into battle with all the weight of expectation. And yet, by the time Sunday singles wrapped up, the headlines weren't about clutch putts or who sank the winning birdie. No, the conversation was hijacked by the arcane procedural grenade known as the envelope rule. Here's what went down. Victor Hovland, one of Europe's sharpest weapons, withdrew with a neck injury according to Ryder Cup tradition.
Well, we're playing this amazing, if a person gets hurt on the football field, you don't give them 7 points if Tom Brady gets hurt.
Have to get to the worst part of the day, aside from losing, which is Victor Hovland. Worst thing that's ever happened in professional sports. This envelope rule, if a guy tweaks his neck, the guy that he was supposed to play doesn't get any benefit out of it. When you're hurt, you lose.
Sealed in an envelope before play begins. Each captain pre-selects one name, the player who must sit out if the other side loses a man. This time, Harris English drew the short straw. With Hovland scratched, English was benched too, and instead of a replacement or a fight to the finish, the match was recorded as a half point for each team, leaving fans fuming, confused, and desperate for answers. On paper, the final tally, 15-13 in Europe's favor, doesn't look like a landslide, but the optics were catastrophic. Instead of roaring comebacks, viewers got paperwork and compromise, and the US, desperate to claw back momentum, watched one of their players sidelined by nothing more than a technical clause gone wrong. By the closing ceremony, the tension was thicker than New York humidity. Bradley's jaw was clenched. Donald stayed diplomatic, and fans were already tearing each other apart online over whether the envelope rule still belongs in golf's future. Sunday night wasn't a celebration, it was the spark of an inquest. A scandal ready to explode. Keegan Bradley didn't bite his tongue. Not even close. He didn't deflect, he didn't hide behind PR talk, and he sure didn't mask the sting of defeat. Minutes after Europe lifted the trophy, Bradley sat down in front of the cameras and dropped the soundbite that would define Bethpage. It has to change. The captain wasn't talking about his roster, his strategy, or the pressure of that roaring home crowd. He was calling out the envelope rule.
Ryder Cup captain has a really awkward assignment. He has to choose the player on his team that he trusts the least.
The bureaucratic booby trap that turned Harris English into collateral damage. Bradley framed it as a straight-up fairness issue, saying no player should ever be yanked from battle for something completely beyond their control. English wasn't injured. He was fired up and ready to fight. Yet because of golf's dusty, rarely used protocol, he never even touched a club on Sunday. The timing made it sting even more, hitting just minutes after America's crushing loss. Bradley's demand wasn't some quiet complaint. It was an open wound broadcast live for the world to see. Pundits called it sour grapes, while fans called it pure honesty. Social media lit up like wildfire, looping clips of Bradley's press conference with captions screaming, "He's right," or "excuses, excuses." Bradley didn't drop full solutions, not yet, but he made one thing clear. This was about planting a flag. In his eyes, America was wronged, and the rulebook was part of the crime. Whether intentional or not, Bradley flipped the whole story from performance to policy. Suddenly, it wasn't about Rory's precision or Rahm's dominance. It was about whether the Ryder Cup's most obscure rule had just robbed Team USA of their chance at glory. The drama shifted from the green to the rulebook, and fans couldn't look away. Quick question for you. Was Bradley really standing up for fairness? Or was he just venting out of frustration because the US lost? Drop your take in the comments. This debate is getting wild, and I'm watching it unfold in real time. Luke Donald. If Bradley was the fiery spark plug of Bethpage, Donald was the ice bath. Calm, deliberate, and maddeningly unshaken, he refused to flinch under Bradley's fury. No emotion, no bite, just pure control that drove American fans crazy. His response? A straight-up history lesson. Donald reminded anyone holding a mic that the envelope rule wasn't some shady European trick. It's been around for decades. Both teams agree to it before a single tee is struck. Every captain signs off, every player knows the deal, and the protocol is literally baked into the DNA of Ryder Cup tradition. If Bradley hated it, Donald coolly implied he should have spoken up months ago, not thrown a sulking postmortem after losing on home soil. That subtle jab hit hard. But to his credit, Donald didn't dismiss the human side. He actually sympathized with both Harris English and Viktor Hovland, saying, "No one wants to see players sidelined." Still, his defense stood firm on principle. You can't rewrite the rules mid-battle just because the result stings. Donald even cautioned that rushing reforms without clarity could unravel the very fairness the rule was meant to protect. For Donald, this wasn't just about one half point. It was about protecting the game's integrity, no matter who felt burned. It was all about optics. The captain as the calm statesman, standing tall for tradition while the storm raged. Donald's composure made him look like the grown-up in the room, while Bradley came off raw, fiery, and reactionary. And in a tournament where image matters just as much as scorecards, Donald didn't just leave as the winning captain, he walked out as the guardian of golf's fragile order. But as if the captain's showdown wasn't enough, the crowd at Bethpage seemed determined to steal the spotlight, and maybe even audition for full-blown villain status. Luke Donald wasn't just sparring with Keegan Bradley. He found himself calling out the very fans who were supposed to make the Ryder Cup electric. His verdict was brutal. They crossed the line. This wasn't polite golf clapping gone wrong. It was chaos and khakis. Donald described jeers timed to players' swings, heckling aimed at European families, and even the shocking moment when rorymcilroy's wife was struck by a flying beer. The so-called 12th man for Team USA turned into a full-blown mob. Donald didn't sugarcoat it. The atmosphere was toxic, plain, and simple. His message hit hard. Passion is fine, but abuse is not. McIlroy backed him up, slamming the crowd for their behavior, and clips spread like wildfire, showing him glaring into the stands, pure fury mixed with disbelief. Meanwhile, Donald folded all of this into his bigger rebuttal to Bradley. This wasn't just about obscure rules anymore, it was about respect. By calling out the fans, Donald expanded the battlefield beyond the captain's feud. Suddenly, it wasn't just a clash of leadership. It was Europe defending sportsmanship, while America looked like it had lost control. Bradley, for his part, stayed silent on the crowd chaos, which only made Donald's critique echo louder. The optics were brutal. Europe looked disciplined and principled, while the US came off chaotic, undignified, and trapped by its own fans. What was meant to be Bethpage pride turned into full-blown Bethpage shame, and Donald seized the moment, rising from captain to the self-proclaimed guardian of golf's soul. If you had to pick who came out looking stronger, Bradley with that raw fire or Donald with his icy calm, drop your answer in the comments. And while you're here, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because this drama isn't cooling off anytime soon. The media swooped in like vultures circling a fresh carcass, and the split-screen narrative was born. Bradley, the bold truth-teller, versus Bradley, the sore loser. Golf Channel and Sky Sports spent hours tearing it apart. Was his outrage courageous or just desperate? Some praised him for finally calling out a dusty old rule that's gone unchallenged for decades, while others said he was whining, reminding everyone that the envelope rule has existed through Ryder Cups where the US benefited too. Meanwhile, Donald's cool composure scored him big points in the court of public opinion. Analysts praised Donald's ability to stay cool under fire, painting him as the captain with true gravitas. Bradley, meanwhile, got tagged as emotional and raw. Words that sound kind, until you realize they really mean not in control. But social media wasn't having that calm narrative. Bradley's fury exploded online, turning into viral gold overnight. Clips of his "It has to change" rant racked up millions of views on TikTok and Instagram Reels, with fans arguing non-stop. Was he fighting for fairness or just throwing shade to save face? Donald's soundbites, smooth and careful, didn't hit the algorithm nearly as hard, but among insiders and journalists, his calm confidence carried real weight. By midweek, the whole thing was being framed like a courtroom showdown. Passion versus poise, tradition versus reform, emotion versus logic, optics versus outcomes. That's how the battlefield looked. And in that setup, Donald walked away as the steady hand, while Bradley seemed like a man shaking his fist at the clouds. The real debate wasn't about who won the cup. It was about who won the story. The Ryder Cup might be over, but the fallout is just getting started. Bradley's three-word grenade? It has to change. Guaranteed that the envelope rule is now under full-scale review. Committees from the PGA DP World Tour and Ryder Cup Europe are already feeling the heat, scrambling for answers. Possible fixes are swirling. Allow captains to name alternates, award a full point instead of a half, or maybe scrap the envelope entirely and let the chaos unfold. Each possible fix comes with its own mess: roster depth, fairness debates, and the fear that adding alternates could water down the Cup's raw drama. But one thing's for sure, Bradley dragged this issue straight into the spotlight, and there's no way it gets ignored before 2027. Not a chance. Donald, on the other hand, walks out of Bethpage with his reputation stronger than ever. He didn't just win on hostile soil, he kept his cool through a scandal that could have wrecked his captaincy. If Bradley ends up being the face of change, then Donald is now the face of tradition. Two captains, two legacies, forever tied together by one obscure piece of paper, sealed in an envelope that rewrote Ryder Cup history. Bethpage 2025 won't be remembered for a 15-13 Europe win. It'll be remembered as the Cup hijacked by paperwork. The year when golf's politest tradition turned into a full-blown powder keg. And whether Bradley ends up vindicated or dismissed, one thing's certain: the Ryder Cup's next chapter will be written not just with putts and pressure, but with policy and pride. Bethpage might be over, but this fight sure isn't. Do you think the envelope rule survives till 2027, or does Bradley's fiery rant finally force a change? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like, share the drama, and subscribe to Golf Swing. See you in the next one.